Hello everyone, welcome to session number 2 on the second day of this Demo Days event. And I'm delighted to be joined by Maurice Gonzenbach, who is one of the 2 co-founders of Caplena. And Caplena is an AI-based text language analytics platform that works with survey data and content from verbatim responses, CX data in all sorts of different formats, from feedback channels, including online reviews, complaints, and all the different places where language comes into customer experience understanding. So Maurice has presented several expert webinars and case studies and demos at our events over the years. And in fact, I should paste in here, if my colleague Cynthia can do so, there is a free course in the Insight Platforms Academy, an introduction to text analytics, which is really good. Very basic introduction to how you work with theme data, how you get sentiment and understand and map that to your different objectives. So it's all on demand. It takes about an hour to do, and you can start and stop whenever you like because it's short lessons. So I will try and post the link in here so that you can go and check that out if you're interested afterwards. But in our previous session with Bulbshare, thank you so much, Cynthia. There you go. In our previous session with Bulbshare, we talked a little bit about identifying emotion, understanding the content of the post, the verbatim feedback in community participants. We said that we get a lot more depth in this session. So I'm going to hand over to Maurice, who will take you through how to get insight out of text in very little time by using some of the latest technology and tools. Keep your comments coming here. Hey, Rafaela, welcome from Sao Paulo, where 1/4 of the Insights team, Insights platform team is based. So you're in good company. If anyone else has questions or comments, keep them coming. You can turn on the closed captions down the bottom. It's always very interesting to see how the AI estimates the company names that people use. It gets most things almost entirely accurate, but company names can be a bit inventive. Anyway, I'm going to stop now. I'm going to hand over to Maurice and take a back seat, and I'm hoping to learn lots of useful stuff here. Maurice, over to you.
Thank you, Mike. Hi, everyone. Very happy to be here today. Let me share my screen and then let's get started with this session. So welcome from Zurich from my side. First of all, apologies. I do have a slight cold, so if my voice sounds strange, that's the only reason for it. I'll try to prevent any snorting as much as possible and focus on insights. But if I'm out of breath or something, please just give me a moment to recuperate. Otherwise, we want to talk about being fast and turning feedback into insights within a short time. Now, some of you might have already heard of us in the past. Caplena, we're a software for analyzing open-ended or other feedback. But I think it's important to recapitulate quickly on what we do in general and where we're coming from. So originally we were a text analysis tool. That's really our raison d'etre, our source, where we started in 2018, but by now we have become this complete feedback analytics platform, and we have actually just released a major revamp of the entire application. So even for those of you that might have heard of us before, I think it's worth looking into it because there is so much more to explore here. And please excuse 1 or 2 marketing slides before we get into the more hands-on part where I show you the application. But just to frame this entirely, what is the objective that we have? What is the vision that we have for the platform? So we are an AI first platform. We have always been that, not only since ChatGPT. We have started with AI already in 2018. And it's more than a little stardust here and there. It's really built into every aspect of the application. And we don't have one AI feature. It's really that all features, or many of them at least, are powered by AI in some way. We also strive to offer a unified view on your various sources of feedback. So from CX cases, surveys, reviews, product testing, any kind of ad hoc feedback, we really try to cover it all, bring it into one platform, and then also allow you to compare these different sources within the platform. So we are this feedback analytics platform for brands. We have a lot of great brands in the world that use us. Um, for example, IKEA, who likes our AI and machine learning capabilities. But very importantly, we are also a platform for agencies. So agencies have been our very first customers, and they still make up about half of our customer base. And the kind of values or features that they look for us are mostly that we have this very powerful topic assignment, but we also have measures to assure quality. So it's really a human in the loop solution that we promote, not a black box where you transparently see what the AI does. You can influence it, nudge it in the right direction. And of course, the time point, which I already mentioned, which then allows these agencies, both small and large, to analyze various kind of projects from large scale trackers to smaller ad hoc product tests. Now, yes, it's important to say that we serve a lot of cases, but I think it's also just as important to note what we don't do, uh, because I think that's important when you look at these platforms to stress where the limits of the capabilities are. And for us, some things we don't do are any kind of data collection. So usually customers bring their data already, with a small exception of reviews, where we also do some scraping. We're also not quite optimized for very qualitative data. So if you have long phone transcripts, for example, that's not what we are optimized for. It's really these shorter pieces of feedback up to a couple of sentences, maybe half a page of text each, that you want to quantify in depth. So much for the intro, and now I'd like to get started with the actual demo and show you a couple of angles of the platform that I think are interesting to look at and might be relevant for you to get some inspiration or see if this might be an application that you want to work with in the future. And the very first point is, of course, how do we get data into the platform? Again, we don't have a collection system ourselves, but we have various ways to import data. And for that, I'm going to switch to the application now briefly and show you how this upload interface looks like. So when you create a new project, you can either choose a file or you can choose from any of the predefined integrations that we have. As mentioned, we have about 10 different review sources that you can scrape directly through our platform, but you can also connect your Qualtrics, your Brandwatch account with more integrations coming soon here. There is also a RESTful API, which you can employ to bring data into the platform programmatically. When you upload a file, I'm just going to choose a dummy file here. It will allow you to select which data to upload in a very, very simple process. The important thing that I want to mention here is that we really ingest all kinds of data. So it's not just your open ends, but it's any kind of ID, any kind of demographic, any kind of numerical values that you have, and we will analyze them alongside with your other data. Maybe two call outs on the upload process or on the upload capabilities as well. There are also two more features that might be relevant for you. For example, there is an anonymization option that allows you to anonymize comments on the fly, for example, remove PII. And of course, we also have integrated automatic translations through either Google Translate or DeepL. So much for the upload. Now that we have this, let's say, chore behind us, we can move to the more interesting part. And the first point I want to highlight here is how to define your topic collection. So talking about the open ends here, of course, specifically, we want to quantify open ends, right? Traditionally, we would have created a code book in Excel or something. Now we need to define a topic collection. And we, of course, do this inside the application with the help of AI and LLMs. So let's have a look on how this works in practice. The specific example here I'm looking at is, I'm just going to return to the overview page here briefly, is a demo survey about consumer electronics. I'm going to use this throughout this session today to illustrate various elements of the application. It's a survey we did in the US where we asked 1,000 people to give us their opinion on their last TV that they bought. And people mentioned various things. The first qualitative summary is shown to you as soon as you have uploaded the data, but we now want to dig a bit more into the details and quantify these results. So let's go ahead. Here are a couple of rows where you see how this looks like, what kind of things people mentioned. And what we do now to generate topics is as simple as hitting this button, generate topics. And that is exactly what the system is going to do. It will present us with an overview of topics that might be relevant for us or topics that it found in based on the data. So these are not any kind of templates. These are really based on the data, and we'll then present them in an overview here on the left-hand side. They are grouped into two levels of hierarchy. We have what we call the category, so brand, and then specific topics within that category. So brand in general, or more specifically, a number of different brands that were discovered here. Same with features and some other categories like other, ease of use, and display. Now, a couple of things here. First of all, the human in the loop aspect allows me now to customize this in any way I want. So I can rename any topic I want. I can add my own topics. I can remove topics to my liking. A second important point here is that the system here will automatically detect new topics over time. So let's say you append another 1,000 rows here in half a year because this is a tracker, or even in a week, and you want to see if anything has happened. And what the system will do then is it will discover potentially new topics and list them here as suggestion. I can simulate this by removing one topic here temporarily, and then removing it from this discarded topics page as well, and then reopen this assistant, and now it should actually recover that removed topic and present it to me again in this suggestion here. One additional feature, which is currently still in private beta, but which will be rolled out in a couple of weeks' time, is a more fine-grained prompt-based topic generation. So that will allow you to modify the topic collection using a specific prompt. So if you do, let's say, a product test and want to focus on specific elements on or specific topics, then you can guide the LLM here and describe which topics you would like to have and which ones you might want to have more fine-grained or more coarsely represented in your topic collection. So one final comment here on why is this even so challenging? Why don't I just simply throw this into ChatGPT? Well, the reason is that yes, LLMs give you great potential topics, but what we really want to have here is a MeC topic collection. So MeC stands for mutually exclusive, conclusively exhaustive, and that means that these topics, they should cover the entirety of themes mentioned in the feedback, but also they shouldn't overlap. They should really be well separated. And LMs are good at generating suggestions. They're not good at doing that deduplication, making sure that it is statistically relevant. And that's why we do a lot of post-processing on these kind of suggestions that come back from the LLM, and then make sure that that they actually follow this MeC principle in the end. So this, of course, is not a final decision that you have to make here. After a couple of minutes, let's say maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes max in this view, you're probably happy with a first draft. You hit close and you already get almost instantly, usually within a couple of seconds, a first classification of your entire data set. And you now have the option to either continue to do some quality assurance by nudging the AI into the right direction, guiding it by giving it a couple of reviews from which it will learn, or we can instantly switch to the analysis of the results. And that's what I'm going to do here. We're going to move on to the next section of the platform that is about reporting. So after having quantified the open ends, I want to dig into the results and see what kind of insights I can gather from these open ends, but also from the other data that I have in my project. So let's have a look at those reports. We start off with a very high level NPS report. You have a number of templates that you can choose from, and also important, you can modify all these reports in the end or from the beginning if you want to. I'm just going to start here as a first entry point. So I have chosen the NPS template because we have asked the question in the NPS form, and the data is the same again, the consumer electronics survey we looked at. We start off with a high level overview of the NPS score, the NPS score over time. But then we also start looking into these topics. And here we really offer everything from a very high level overview of which topics were mentioned, for example, through this tree map here, where I can see okay, features were mentioned, brands were mentioned, technology was mentioned, but it also allows me to dig into any kind of element I want. So I can click on the screen resolution here, and I will see all the topics behind the topic screen resolution, sorry, all the verbatims behind the topic screen resolution, and will then also get a qualitative summary for this specific subsegment. We can go on and look at a sentiment analysis as well, see how the sentiment differs for various different topics or categories. We can look at trends over time, and maybe to highlight, one of the highlights is definitely the driver analysis, which offers you to go beyond simple counting. Let's recapitulate quickly what a driver analysis is. So if you ask a score question, a rating question, plus an open-ended question, you can then use the topics from the open-ended question to compute the impact on the overall score. And this is really a very powerful measure because with only 2 questions, you can not only answer the how often something is mentioned, but how important it is for the overall satisfaction. Oftentimes, topics might be mentioned a lot of times. Let's say price might be mentioned a lot of times, but actually it's not the most deciding topic for the overall satisfaction. And this driver analysis really now allows us to quantify that impact, both in the negative direction, but also in the positive direction. And finally, we do a simulation taking into account the importance plus how often it is mentioned to give you the total impact on the NPS score. So here we can, for example, say that the brand reputation overall pulls the NPS score 6 points into the positive direction. And how to read this one on the left here is that if someone mentions audio quality, if a single person mentions audio quality in a negative way, it will reduce that person's score by 2 points. So quite significantly on a 0 to 10 scale. This is the NPS scale here, of course, if you look at the overall NPS impact. So this is minus 100 to 100. And last element on this driver analysis is, of course, the next question that you're going to have. What am I going to do about this now? And the LLM here also comes up with suggestions. Of course, depending on the topic, they might be more or less generic, but especially if it's about specific elements, the screen resolution, the quality, then it will dig into the open ends, the underlying open ends again, and try to find specific measures that you could take to improve those specific elements. So really, we try to make it as actionable as possible for the viewer. So much for this first report here. There will be a lot of more insight elements, more charts that I could talk about, but I'd like to also focus or highlight 2 or 3 overall features that we have in this reporting. So as you already might have seen, there are filters. We can apply filters on various dimensions to look at how these different dimensions behave. We can apply date ranges, so we can look at a specific date range and also apply comparison date ranges. If we look at the past 30 days with the previous, okay, there's no data here for this specific filter, but if we chose the most recent month of this data versus the previous, we can start looking at differences and how the numbers have changed over that time. And last but not least, a very powerful feature which I'm excited about are segments. And I'm going to move to another report here that I prepared. Actually, I can show you quickly how it works. It's quite simple. If you have any kind of additional column in here, let's say the income, I can combine or select certain filters and then save them as a segment. And then demo effect here. And then when having defined more than one segment, I can start comparing these segments over the entire report. So the nice thing really here is that these segments are then used in all the insights element you have, and you can dynamically see how the difference now is between these 2 different segments. So a very powerful feature if you want to go beyond simple counting and really do more explorative analyses of the results. Finally, these reports can, of course, be shared with your colleagues, with your management, but also with your clients if you're an agency, either internally through the app if they have an account already, or we can simply create shareable links, password protect them, expire them, and then send them to the relevant people. Right, so this is the overall reporting feature. Now, I have mentioned at the beginning that we not only allow analyzing the open ends, but more and more we have become a generic feedback analysis platform. And that's the last element of this reporting I want to look at, that you can actually create insight elements or analyses on these other kind of columns as well. So for that purpose, I'm going to start a blank report. I can really start from scratch here and then edit it. And here I am now able to add any custom insight element that is available. So we have a number of different insight elements. Also, you can see them as different charts available. And I can then choose any one that might be relevant for my purposes to analyze these non-open-ended columns, these categorical or numerical values. For example, if I want to visualize the year of birth here, I can look at how the distribution is, increase the number of segments, the buckets here, let's say 8, and then see how my distribution of the age column is here. The same if I want to look at another column, let's say a more categorical one. I'm going to choose the provider here, and then I can check out how the distribution of providers was. Okay, many mentioned unknown, but the rest was distributed between AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, and Sprint. So with this, I'm gonna close the reporting part, and in the last 5 minutes, I wanna highlight two more features that are available in the new application. And the first one is alerting. So many projects nowadays are not static, right? If you look at tracker, if you look any kind of CX data, reviews oftentimes as well, you want to have these synchronized regularly, then this data lives, this data changes. And we want to make sure that you actually stay on top of your data and don't have to look into the dashboards daily or weekly to notice any kind of changes. So the new feature we have built is an alerting feature where you can define to be alerted by email on specific events. And you have different options here. Either you say, well, just notify me of anything relevant. This is the auto digest feature. And this will then send you a kind of a digest, a newsletter on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis, and inform you of any kind of change that has happened. You can define the significance level here. So from which level of significance you want to be notified, and you'll then get the relevant information in your email inbox. If you have specific thresholds in mind, then of course you can define that as well. If you say, I want to get notified if the sentiment for customer service drops by more than 10%, then notify me. Or you can also define single occurrences. So this is mostly relevant for more audit or legal reasons. Let's say you want to be notified every time that a potential topic about harassment or racism is mentioned, just also for compliance reason to be able to react on that, then you can define thresholds here and say, hey, I want to be notified every time that verbatim mentions a topic that could be related to one of these things. Finally, you can also be alerted on new topics. So if you want to be notified about a topic that you might not be tracking yet, and this will then notify you about these kind of cases. And with that, I'm coming to the last element, but also one of the most exciting elements in my opinion, and that is a insight chat. So like other solutions as well, we have implemented a chat functionality which you can use to query your data, query the results of your data for exploratory or deep dives. And the focus here for us, the vision here for us is really combining qualitative and quantitative elements. So what does this mean? Let's have a look at an example for this one as well. I'm going to start a new conversation here still on the same underlying data that we have worked on the entire session here. And I have multiple options now. Either I can just let myself be entertained and tell the system to guide me through the most important elements of the data. It will start with a summary, then show me the most mentioned positive topics, the most mentioned negative ones. Then it will show me the distribution or the share of sentiment for the topics, the topics with the most positive share of sentiment. Quite interesting, value for money. Probably not so often that this is one of the most positively mentioned topics. And then the most negatively mentioned topics on the other hand. So I could continue here and just let myself be entertained, but of course, the most interesting thing is that I can also ask for specific insights or for specific questions. And Let's make an example here, and let me ask, how does Apple compare to Samsung? And the system will then query the underlying data. Actually, the formatting is a bit off here, so let me just try that again. Typical LLM randomness. Now it does look better. So the uh, goal here, as I mentioned, is combining again qualitative and quantitative aspects. So the system will give us a summary of quantitative differences. So it shows that reliability has less positive mentions for Samsung. So actually, if we formulate this differently, Apple is better in terms of reliability than Samsung, but the difference is not significant. And this is one thing we try to incorporate in more and more places in the application, including this place here, that we want to show which things are significant and which not. But at the same time, the system will also go into more qualitative aspects and give us a summary on a couple of examples, or I can also, of course, ask what do people say about features, and then it will give me a more qualitative summary on what people have, what kind of features people have mentioned. So this is really a powerful method for looking at the data in a new way. I think it's not that it's a completely new kind of analysis that wasn't possible before. The data, the kind of results are actually the same that you could also get from a dashboard with summaries. But the big difference here is that you can get to your specific answer within a very short time. And the time to answer is actually often the difference between going with an answer that is good enough, or digging deeper, asking follow-up questions, and really getting to the root cause of things. So that's why we are so excited about this technology, because it does allow to follow your train of thought for longer and get to the ground of what is happening, and really find the root cause of these issues that you would like to tackle. So with that, I'm getting towards the end of this presentation. I think we're just about at half an hour, which is the time I was targeting. If you do have any more questions on the application specifically, I'm happy to answer them now, or any kind of related questions. Of course, if you want to explore the solution more in depth, we'd also be quite happy to give you a personalized demo, or have a call about your use case if it makes sense on our application or not. So with that, thank you very
Thank you.
much for your attention.
It was great.
Back to you,
Thank
Mike.
you, Maurice. I think your voice needs a little rest just for a minute or so.
Absolutely.
So well done. Congratulations on making it through with a sore throat and a cold. We've got a couple of questions from Jennifer. This is the first time I've seen a few of these things presented, actually. And my favorite thing actually is that just keep hitting for new insights. It's like playing a slot machine, or I don't know, just keep ordering the whiskey at the bar or something. You just kind of can't keep hitting me. It's good. I like it. It's great. And the way that the driver's analysis is packaged, I found to be really intuitive. That if you've got somebody mentions this particular feature, it's going to drag the NPS score down versus a tiny bump up, for some other people. Is that only built around NPS, where you've got a very consistent structure of the recommendation question and the open end, or can you apply the same kind of thing to other types of data where you've got, let's say, an explanatory verbatim and a dependent variable? Because that dependent variable could be did somebody add something to basket, or how long has somebody been a customer, or is it flexible like that?
Yes, very good point. Actually, it is. You can choose which columns you want to relate to each other. With the NPS is actually the most challenging one, because as you know, the NPS is a nonlinear step function. So the computing the impact there is not quite as simple. Let me make an example here. If the impact of a topic is 2 points and someone moves from a NPS score of 2 to 4, that doesn't change anything yet, right? There's still a detractor. So we need to do some advanced statistical modeling there and simulations to make sure that we don't under or overestimate the impact of these changes. But getting back to your question, yes, absolutely, we can model it for the NPS, the CSAT, but also a very generic average rating case where it will just take the computation a bit is actually more straightforward. Of
Yeah,
course, it's up to the user to decide if these two variables do make sense to correlate with each other. And the question, I mean, there does need to be some kind of causation
sure. Yeah,
implied by the two, but
yeah.
absolutely possible.
But I was thinking, even something as basic as brand tracking, which could be, likelihood to consider or likelihood to purchase versus, some, descriptive comment about a perception of the brand. You've got effectively the same kind of quant and qual relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, great. So Jennifer, you were asking about the charts in the reporting. Can you export the content and can you bring the data back out of the platform? Can you just talk a little bit about export formats, Maurice?
Right. So the raw categorized data, or not raw, but the enriched data can be exported in various formats in Excel, SPSS, CSV, JSON, and you can also export it through the REST API itself. The single charts, there where this feature is still in the works, it will be available within the next couple of weeks, that you can download single charts either as an image file or as Excel file as well. So that is in the works. And one bigger feature, which will still take probably a month or two, maybe rather 2 months, is a export to Power BI that you're able to export to any kind of, or not any kind of Power BI table, and do some further analysis there, potentially together with your other data.
Great. Okay, thank you. Hopefully that answered your question, Jennifer. Good. Good. You showed the sort of timed reporting, like weekly or kind of immediate alert reporting for different criteria based on, where your thresholds are. Could you also have alerts that are topic based? I'm thinking particularly in healthcare research, for example, where you have to do adverse event reporting. If somebody says, I took this pill and it made me itchy, you need to capture that. You need to flag it straight away. Is that a use case that you see for that application?
Absolutely. I think it goes into that direction of the compliance case, which I touched upon as well. So you can that's also a great case for pharmaceutical companies, or also agencies that do research for pharmaceutical companies, and that they could set up such an alert that whenever a topic about adverse events is mentioned, you get notified. Yeah, a great use case for that as well.
Yeah. Okay. I've got and this is grounded in some recent research that I've been involved in. So I'm going to hijack this with a specific question for me. But I noticed when you pulled in the electronics data set, the dummy data set, and it was identifying topics. The first cluster was brands. The brands that were identified were all perfectly spelled and correct. Was that in the data file? Were they all correctly spelled, Samsung and Apple, or is there some intelligence built in that has a kind of fuzzy, will correctly kind of bucket them based on the context for the category?
Yeah, good point. So there is there is some intelligence there which will return the hopefully correct spelling. I think that's really works in 99% of the cases, that you get the correct spelling variant. And then the second step is, of course, that this categorization algorithm afterwards that goes through the open ends and does the topic assignment, that one also is resilient to some misspellings again, right? So that the wrong version is attributed to the right tag. Of course, it's not 100%, and for it depends also on the length of the word. So if you have LG spelled as GL, that's harder to recognize. But of course, if you have apples, then the chance is quite quite high that it will be recognized correctly. So it's still an AI algorithm. It's not 100%, but I think there is quite a bit of resilience to it. And maybe one side note, there is also a different mode that we have. We call it the semi-open mode, which is not AI based, more really statistically based on the spelling variant, which is really focused towards this unaided brand awareness case. And that's actually where there's even more resilience and speed towards these kind of cases. So that one, if you do have that case again, Mike, that will be a great place to start.
We had over 1,000 brand names mentioned in this survey of brand awareness for research companies across the industry, and it was, let's say, it was painstaking to clean it up and get it in. Which is why my question. I wasn't sure if you had, let's say, artificially clean data for demo purposes, or if it was actually part of the product. So yeah, that's interesting.
No, get in touch next time you have that problem. We'll be happy to
we will
support you there.
hopefully Cynthia's listening. Good. I think that looks like all the questions that we're going to get from our audience. Does anyone else have any questions for Maurice? Because now this is, maybe slightly misdirected at the start by talking about obviously the heritage of Caplena being grounded in text analytics. I think, feedback analytics is a much really, sort of broader incorporating aspects of quant reporting as well, alongside language data and, and text-based feedback. So it's definitely broader than I may have implied at the start. So if you have any questions for Maurice, then do please post them now. I have another question, because I think most people here, our lens on this will be either primary survey research with verbatim responses, or customer experience feedback that might include reviews or complaints or some of that other type of data. In the product management space, so for online applications, for websites and apps, there's a lot of product-based feedback from either roadmap suggestions or support queries and things like that. That again is very highly kind of automated for that sort of sometimes for a sort of startup leadership team to figure out what's going on and where they should focus. Is that a use case for Caplena, or are you more focused on the kind of market research and customer experience applications?
Yeah, also good question. So we do see these cases, but they're not the biggest focus of ours. It really depends on the level of depth that you want to go to. So if you are happy with 5 high-level categories and you don't have thousands of pieces of feedback, but maybe only 100-200, then you might be quite happy with what you get in product board or whichever other product feedback tool you're using. If you really want to go into, if you're a very large platform and want to go into the depths of feedback, then we do have these cases as well, and we have those kind of customers. But then you need to have the aspiration to go deeper than just performance. Like if that's the level, then you probably don't need us in every case. But it also depends on where the company is coming from, and even if they have these tools, if they don't have these kind of tools, but if their insights team uses us already, then that's of course a great way to just share resources and become more
Yeah.
efficient as well. Maybe one case we also have here and there is UX. UX testing is something we do see as well. Again, not the largest use case, but definitely a regular stream or trickle of customers there as well.
Yeah. Okay, great. Makes good sense. Okay, so I gave people plenty of chance to ask more questions and they haven't. So I think it's time to give your voice a rest properly. Thank you very much for battling through when you're under the weather. And thanks to everyone for showing up. I hope you found this useful, interesting. There's a lot of, I think, a lot of user interface, reporting formats, some really unique blending of the sort of data visualization and the chat data and the interaction, sort of putting those things side by side. I think it's really powerful. So thank you, Maurice, for taking us through that, showing us some of your latest innovations. And thanks to everyone again for joining the session. You've got a small break now. You've got just under 15 minutes until our next demo, and something slightly different again. We like to keep things varied. We are joined by Recollective, who are going to be talking about Recollective Connect, which is the new solution. So do come along to that. You may know Recollective for communities, for qualitative research, for a lot of that asynchronous online research and live video research. This is something new that they're launching alongside the news today that they're opening up to cover the Asia Pac market as well, with an office in Sydney. So that's Recollective. If you know them, then you may be learning something new. If you don't, come along and see what they have to offer. So that'll be at 3 o'clock my time, 10 a.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. in Central European time, and I know we've got people from many other countries as well. So whatever that is locally, just under 15 minutes. I hope you'll be back. Maurice, and thanks to you and to all your colleagues for taking part in this event. I hope you feel better soon, and we'll be back shortly. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Mike, and have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.